The market isn't crashing, it's just cooking slow, and that's beautiful. And when do we decide that nothing happening is the same as something bad? Everyone wants a boiling pot, but me, well, I prefer a low simmer. Let me show you why. I want you to imagine something with me here for a second. Let's just say you're in a small trattoria somewhere in Rome, not the fancy ones. And I mean the one like sort of like down the alley where the waiter doesn't really smile until you order something special. You've been waiting for your dish, your pasta, for like 20 minutes. The table next to yours gets theirs first. You're getting impatient, and then finally the food arrives. You take one bite and you realize they didn't rush it. They didn't crank the heat, they didn't let the sauce burn, they let it sit, they let the pasta rest, and the waiting, well, that was the secret. This is where the Canadian real estate market is sitting right now, sitting, resting, letting the sauce come together. And if you live in Oakville or you want to, that is not bad news. That is the best news you have not heard yet. April 29th came and went. The Bank of Canada met, they reviewed the numbers, they looked at a world that feels like it is buzzing with bad energy, and that it did something rare. They did nothing. Overnight rate stays at 2.25, prime rate stays at 4.45. Now, if you only read the headlines, you would scroll past like nothing happened. You would move on. But in real estate, as in cooking, knowing when not to touch the stove is half the battle. First, the Middle East. Conflict there sends ripples. Oil gets nervous, shipping routes get expensive, and when it costs more to have things move from one place to another, eventually that cost shows up in your grocery bill, your gas, and yes, your mortgage affordability as well. Second, the United States. Their trade policy is changing shape every few weeks. Not dramatically, not with a single big moment, but death by a thousand cuts. New tariffs, new rules, new friends, and new enemies. Global trade patterns are learning a whole new dance, and they're stepping on a lot of toes. So, the Big Bank of Canada looked at all of this and said, you know what, let's just wait it out. That's not weakness, that is wisdom. And here's the part that should make you feel a little bit better. The IMF said that something remarkable has happened. They said that Canada has the strongest finances in the entire G7. Stronger than Germany, stronger than Japan, stronger than the UK. Let that sink in. When the world gets weird, we have room to breathe. So, no rate hike, no rate cut, just a pause, a long, slow exhale. And in real estate, a pause is not a problem. A pause is just a chance to think clearly. Now, let me read you two headlines from the same Royal LePage report. Headline one: National aggregate home price fell 2% year over year. Headline number two: Prices largely stable, edging up 0.7% from the previous quarter. Same report, one sounds like a funeral, one sounds like a Sunday afternoon. Here's the truth: a 2% drop over 12 months is not a crash. A crash is something like 20%, 30%. A crash is people leaving keys on the counter and walking away forever. This this is a car at a red light. The engine is running, nobody's hurt. You're just waiting for the light to turn green. And that 0.7% bump from last quarter, that tells you the market touched the floor, pushed off gently, and is now hovering. Not flying, just hovering. Now, let me add Korea's latest forecast into the bowl. Now, Korea expects national home sales to rise just 1% in 2026. That is down from the 5.1% they predicted back in January. They expected to climb about 1.5%, roughly $689,000. That's about $10,000 lower than their previous call. So let me translate that from real estateese to like English. Prices are not exploding, sales are not exploding, but they're also not collapsing. We have left the crazy years behind, the years where the houses sold to people who never even visited them. The years where bidding wars felt like a contact sport, the years where you had to waive your inspection or lose the house. Those years were kind of exciting. I will give them that, but they were also stupid and unsustainable. And they left a lot of people with regrets and too much mortgage. What we have now is a low flame, a braise, if you will, and anything cooked on a low flame, well, it takes longer, but it also tastes better and it does not burn your mouth. According to the Bank of Canada, they found something really profound, something that should matter to every parent, every young buyer out there in Oakville, anywhere in the GTA. Back in 2004, only about 4% of first time home buyers had a parent co sign their mortgage. By 2025, that number had climbed to 11%. And here's the part that should make you pay attention: 74% of those co signed buyers would not have qualified for the mortgage on their own. 3 out of 4 young people who bought a home with mom and dad's name on the paper could not have bought it alone. Now, you could look at that and feel despair. You could say, the system is broken. Or you could look at it this way: families are showing up. Parents are not writing blank checks, but they are putting their names on the line. They're taking risks so their kids can have a front door of their own, so they can have a chance at building future wealth for future generations. Maybe you are the parent who will do this one day. Maybe you already have. Maybe you're the buyer who needed that help, and now you're finally building equity instead of paying someone else's mortgage. None of these stories are sad. They are just real. They are just families doing what families have always done, looking out for each other. And here's the cold market impact: co signing keeps the bottom from falling out. Without that, about 11%, maybe more, sales would just disappear. More young families would be stuck renting forever. More landlords would get richer while renters got tired. So, no, it is not ideal. Yes, it would be better if wages kept up with house prices, but they did not. So, families adapted. And that adaptation quietly holds up our entire market. Okay, let's talk downsizing. Remax Canada asks a simple question to thousands of people: do you have downsizing options in your community? About 50% said there was almost none, and 8% said there was like nothing, zero. Among people age 65 or older, 65% said low or no availability. So let me paint you a picture. You're 72 years old, but let's say 70 to 75. You've raised 3 kids in a 4 bedroom house in the GTA somewhere in Oakville. The kids are all grown up, they're gone. The stairs are getting harder. Your knees complain every morning. You would love a 2 bedroom bungalow or a nice condo with an elevator and a building manager who changes the light bulbs or provides similar services. But there is nothing. Or what exists is wildly overpriced, or it's poorly built, or it's like an hour away from your grandkids. So you stay, you keep the big house, you keep the big yard, you keep the stairs, and you quietly wonder what comes next. The alternate is very expensive. Now, here's why that matters to you: every empty nester who stays in their family home means one fewer family home on the market for the next generation. Supply stays tight, prices stay supported. This is not a conspiracy by realtors. This is not greedy boomers hoarding houses because they want to be mean and hoard all this wealth. This is a supply problem. Builders did not build enough smaller homes for decades. Condos went luxury, bungalows got torn down for custom built homes, mansions. So now supply is tight. And when supply is tight, prices do not crash. They hold, they hover. They maybe even creep up over time. If you already own a family home in the GTA, that is quietly good news. Your house is more rare than anybody wants to admit. If you want to buy a family home, let's just say in Oakville, this explains why you're not seeing 50 listings every Sunday. It's not you, it's just simple math. It's demographics. It is 65% of seniors locked in place because there's nowhere reasonable to go. Now, let's take another angle to the supply issue. So, how Sigma tracks GTA resale homes going back more than 20 years, and March 2026 set a record, not a good or a bad record, just a different one. Only 48,000, roughly about 5,000, let's just say, resale homes sold across the entire GTA in March 2026. So, for context, the 10-year average for March is 9,000 homes. We're talking about half the usual activity. And here's a really wild part: this March was even lower than what we had in 2008, the financial crisis. Lower than the year the whole global financial system hiccuped and almost fell over. So most people hear that and panic. I understand your brain wants to scream, nobody's buying, sell everything, run. But take a breath. Like, really look at it. Look at what actually happens when both supply and demand drop together. Fewer people are selling, that is supply going down. Fewer people are buying, that is demand going down. When both move down together, prices do not crash. They drift. They find a new equilibrium. It's like two people in a rowboat who both stop rowing, then you just don't sink, you just float. And here is the Oakville advantage, in my opinion. Oakville is not Brampton, it's not Pickering, Mississauga. Oakville has deeper pockets. Oakville has families who plan to stay for 10 or 20 years. It has people who can afford to wait out a slow market without selling in a panic. So when GTA sales drop by half, Oakville sales drop too. I won't pretend that that doesn't happen here, but Oakville prices drop less because the people selling here are not desperate. And the people buying here have some options. That's not luck, that is geography and demographics. And it quietly works in your favor. So here's my question for you, and be honest. Knowing what's happening with the supply of homes due to the economy and the demographic factors, are you likely to change your real estate goals for the next 3 to 5 years? Comment it below. There's probably many people who are having the same thoughts. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.